What would you do if your entire wedding was built on lies? Keep reading, this story will leave you speechless. The skyline of Atlanta stretched before me like a promise, steel and glass towers catching the golden afternoon light, reminding me of everything I'd built. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I'm Jasmine Monroe, and at 34, I'd turned my father's struggling tech startup into one of the Southeast's most respected cybersecurity firms. Success, they say, looks good on you. But standing here in my penthouse apartment, staring at my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows, I wondered if it looked as good as happiness would. In exactly 30 days, I would walk down the aisle and marry Marcus Williams. I met Marcus 2 years ago at a charity gala in Buckhead. He was everything I thought I wanted. Sharp suit, sharper mind, working as a senior analyst at one of Atlanta's premier financial firms. When he talked about market trends and investment strategies, his eyes lit up the same way mine did when I discussed encryption protocols and data security. We were a power couple, everyone said. Tech and finance, beauty and brains. The perfect match. 6 months ago, on a warm September evening, Marcus proposed. He'd reserved the entire rooftop restaurant at the St. Regis, candles flickering against the Atlanta skyline, a string quartet playing softly in the corner. When he dropped to one knee, the 3-carat diamond catching the city lights, I actually gasped. Tears streamed down my face as I said yes. "Girl, you're glowing," my sister Keisha said, snapping me back to the present. She was sitting on my cream-colored sofa, her legs tucked under her, watching me with those warm brown eyes that reminded me so much of our mothers. "That dress is absolutely stunning on you." The wedding gown draped across the mannequin in my living room was a masterpiece. Ivory silk with delicate beading that caught the light like scattered diamonds. Custom made by a designer in Paris, it had cost more than my first car. "I just wish Mama and Daddy could see this," I said softly. Keisha's expression shifted, that familiar shadow of grief crossing her face. Our mother had died from breast cancer 5 years ago, and Daddy, my hero, my mentor, had passed from a heart attack 3 years back. The business I ran, the success I'd achieved, it was all built on his foundation. Sometimes I'd sit in what used to be his office and swear I could still smell his cologne. "They're watching," Keisha assured me, walking over to adjust my hair. "Mama would be losing her mind over this wedding. You know that. She'd have every auntie in Atlanta on speed dial." I laughed, the sound catching in my throat. At 31, Keisha was 3 years younger than me, but had always been the social butterfly. She'd married her college sweetheart, DeAndre, and they had the most beautiful 10-year-old daughter, Aaliyah. My niece was my whole heart, bright, curious, with braids that bounced when she laughed. "Speaking of, how's my flower girl doing with her practice?" I asked. Keisha's face lit up. "Oh Lord, she's been practicing every single day. Last night, she made me sit on the couch and pretend to be the entire wedding party while she walked down our hallway throwing imaginary petals. Girl, she is ready." The thought made me smile. Aaliyah had been so excited when I asked her to be my flower girl. She'd hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, squealing, "Auntie Jess, I'm going to be the best flower girl ever." Marcus's family had welcomed me in with open arms too. His mother, Patricia, was the kind of Southern woman who believed in big hats, bigger hugs, and Sunday dinners that lasted until the street lights came on. His father, Gerald, was a retired college professor, dignified, well-read, with a handshake that felt like a contract of trust. And his younger brother, Terrence, was always cracking jokes, calling Marcus and me Atlanta's next power dynasty. We'd started having monthly family dinners about 6 months ago. Nothing fancy, just good food and better company. I'd watch Marcus laugh with DeAndre, see Kiha chatting with Patricia about recipes, and think, this is what family feels like. This is what I've been missing since we lost Mama and Daddy. But lately, something had felt off. It started small, little things I told myself I was imagining. Aaliyah had been quieter than usual the past few weeks. My normally bubbly niece would sit at family dinners, pushing food around her plate, not meeting my eyes. When I asked if something was wrong, she'd shake her head quickly, too quickly, and say, "Nothing, Auntie Jez." And DeAndre had stopped coming to family dinners altogether. "Work's been crazy," Keisha would explain. But there was something in her voice that didn't quite ring true. A tightness, a careful selection of words. Last week, I'd stopped by their house in East Atlanta unannounced. Aaliyah had answered the door, and for just a second, I saw something in her eyes that looked almost like fear. "Where's your mama?" I asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "She's not here," before quickly changing the subject to her upcoming science project. Then there were the whispered conversations. Twice now, I'd walked into a room and found Marcus and Keisha deep in discussion, their heads close together. The moment they noticed me, they'd spring apart like teenagers caught passing notes in class. "Just planning a surprise for the wedding," Marcus would say with that smooth smile of his. I wanted to believe him. Patricia had also been unusually insistent about family time lately. "Sugar, after the wedding, we should do Sunday dinners every single week," she'd suggested over brunch last month. "Family is everything." "That sounds wonderful," I'd agreed, though something about the intensity in her eyes had made me pause. I pushed those thoughts away. Wedding jitters, that's all. Every bride probably feels like this, questioning, wondering, searching for problems where none exist. Marcus loved me. Keisha was my sister, my best friend. His family had embraced me. In 30 days, I'd be Mrs. Jasmine Williams, starting a new chapter. The rehearsal dinner last night had been perfect. Both families gathered at the Georgian Terrace Hotel, the ballroom glittering with crystal and candlelight. Marcus had stood, raised his champagne flute, and said, "Tomorrow will be the best day of my life. Jasmine, meeting you has made me understand what happiness really means." Keisha had hugged me tight, tears in her eyes. "I'm so happy for you, sis. Your happiness means everything to me." I had been floating on air, surrounded by love and light. Could life get any better than this? As the evening wound down and people headed to their rooms, Aaliyah had suddenly grabbed my arm. Her small hand was shaking. "Auntie Jazz," she whispered urgently, "tomorrow, I need to tell you something." Before I could ask what, Keisha had swooped in, her voice oddly sharp. "Baby girl, tomorrow's going to be crazy busy. Don't bother your aunt with stuff tonight." She'd practically dragged Aaliyah away, leaving me standing there confused. I'd knelt down to Aaliyah's level. "We'll talk after the wedding, okay, sweetie?" Aaliyah had nodded, but her eyes, those beautiful, expressive eyes, looked desperate, like she was watching someone drown and couldn't reach the water. That night, I'd fallen asleep quickly, dreaming of white roses and Marcus's smile. Tomorrow would be perfect. Tomorrow would be the beginning of everything. "Mama, Daddy," I thought as I drifted off, "watch over me tomorrow. I'm going to be so happy." I had no idea that in less than 24 hours, my perfect life would shatter like crystal hitting marble. The morning of my wedding day, I woke to sunlight streaming through the hotel suite windows, painting everything gold. The Atlanta skyline looked like something from a dream. Piedmont Park, a patch of green in the distance, the buildings gleaming under a perfect September sky. Not a single cloud. God himself had blessed this day. My heart was racing in that good way, that Christmas morning childhood way. Today, I would become Mrs. Marcus Williams. Today was the first page of forever. By 9 a.m., my suite had transformed into organized chaos. The hair and makeup team arrived with their rolling cases full of magic. My bridesmaids filtered in one by one, my best friends in Spelman, Tamara, my cousin Nicole from Savannah, and my work friend Denise, who could make me laugh until my sides hurt. Everyone was dressed in flowing emerald green gowns that made them look like they were ready for the cover of Essence magazine. "Jazz, this day is finally here!" Tamara practically tackled me with a hug, careful not to mess up the curlers in my hair. "Girl, we've been talking about your wedding since sophomore year. Remember when we used to plan fake weddings in the dorm?" I laughed. "You always said I'd marry a businessman in a suit. And look at you now. I'm basically psychic." The makeup artist worked her magic while we sipped mimosas and laughed about college memories. But I kept checking my phone. No message from Aaliyah. That was strange. My niece usually texts me good morning every day, either an emoji or a silly selfie. Today, nothing. At 10 a.m., Keisha arrived. My baby sister looked absolutely stunning in her maid of honor dress, a deeper shade of emerald that brought out the warmth in her skin.
Her makeup was flawless, her locks styled up in an elegant crown, but something about her smile seemed forced, like she was performing happiness rather than feeling it. "Look at you," Keisha said, standing behind me as I sat at the vanity. Our eyes met in the mirror. "You're glowing, sis. This really is your day." "I'm glad you're here," I said, reaching back to squeeze her hand. "I couldn't do this without you." "You're stronger than you think," Keisha said, and something in her voice made it sound like goodbye rather than encouragement. But I pushed the thought away. Wedding emotions, everything felt heightened, significant, weighted with meaning. We toasted with champagne. Tamara made a speech about sisterhood and love that had everyone teary. Denise told an embarrassing story about catching me practicing my wedding vows in the office bathroom. We laughed until our stomachs hurt, and for a moment, it felt exactly right. At 11:30, we arrived at the venue, a historic estate in Druid Hills with white columns and gardens that looked like they'd been painted by an impressionist. White roses and calla lilies adorned every surface. The staff guided us to the bridal suite, a spacious room with French doors opening onto a private balcony. And there it hung, my dress. The ivory silk seemed to glow in the sunlight, the beating, catching light like scattered starlight. I approached it slowly, reverently, like it was made of spider silk and wishes. "Let's get you into this masterpiece," the stylist said gently. I slipped into the gown, and it felt like sliding into a new skin. The silk was cool against my body, fitting perfectly, transforming me into someone I barely recognized. I stood in front of the full-length mirror and my breath caught. The woman looking back at me was radiant, powerful, beautiful. "Daddy, if you could see me now," I thought, and tears threatened to ruin my makeup. "Don't you dare cry," the makeup artist warned with a laugh. The bridesmaids returned to the room and erupted in cheers. "Oh my God, Jazz, you look like you just stepped out of a black wedding Pinterest board." Keisha adjusted my veil with careful fingers. "You look happy," she said quietly. There was something odd in her tone, sad almost, like she was mourning something. At 12:30, the wedding coordinator appeared, clipboard in hand, smile bright and professional. "Ladies, we're 30 minutes from showtime. Bridesmaids, we need you at the ceremony space for photos." The girls hugged me one more time, careful not to crush my dress, leaving lipstick marks on my cheeks that I'd have to fix. Keisha lingered at the door. "I need to go take my seat." "Keisha?" I called out. She turned. "Thank you. For everything." My sister's smile crumbled for just a second before she reconstructed it. "Be happy, Jazz." Then she was gone. Alone, I stood in front of the mirror doing a final check. Hair, perfect. Makeup, flawless. Dress, like something from a fairy tale. I took a deep breath and whispered, "Mama, Daddy, I wish you were here." 12:45. 15 minutes until I walked down that aisle. From outside my door, I heard voices, Marcus's family gathering in the hallway. "Today is going to be absolutely perfect," Patricia's voice drifted through. "Our boy chose well." Gerald's deep voice responded, "Very well indeed." I smiled, but something in their tone made my skin prickle. They sounded calculating, cold. Like they were discussing a business transaction rather than a wedding. "Stop it, Jazz," I told myself. "You're being paranoid. These are good people who love you." Suddenly, I realized Aaliyah still wasn't here. My niece should have been in this suite an hour ago, getting into her flower girl dress, bouncing with excitement. Where was she? I moved toward the door to ask the coordinator, but then I heard it. Footsteps. Running. Fast, desperate, the sound of someone fleeing or chasing. Small feet. A child's feet. My heart began to pound for reasons I couldn't explain. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. For one heartbeat, there was only silence. Then the door exploded open. Aaliyah burst into the room like a storm, her face streaked with tears, her white flower girl dress stained and wrinkled. Her braids had come loose from their careful styling, hanging wild around her face. She looked terrified, devastated, like she'd seen the world end. "Auntie Jazz," she sobbed, her whole body shaking. "Please, please, you have to cancel the wedding right now." My heart stopped. I dropped to my knees in front of her, my wedding dress pooling around us like a silk ocean. "Baby girl, what's wrong? What happened?" Her hands were trembling so hard, she could barely reach into her pocket. She pulled out a cell phone, not hers. I recognized the rose gold case. Keisha's phone. "You have to look at this," she whispered through tears. I took Mama's phone. I know I wasn't supposed to, but I had to show you." My hands shook as I took the phone. The screen was already open to a messaging app. I saw the name at the top of the conversation, and the world tilted sideways. Marcus. The messages were from this morning, timestamped, just 2 hours ago. Marcus. "Good morning, beautiful. Today finally came. I love you so much." Keisha. "I love you too, baby. Soon we won't have to hide anymore." The air left my lungs. I couldn't breathe. This had to be fake, a mistake. Someone hacked the phone. This wasn't real. But I kept reading. Marcus. "Every Sunday from now on, we can meet for family dinner. She doesn't suspect anything, just like we planned." Just like we planned. Those 4 words stabbed into my chest like ice picks. Keisha. "If we can hold out for 2 years, we can get rid of her. Then we'll finally be together for real." Marcus. "Aaliyah will have a real father. Plus, her sister's company stock is worth millions. Once I'm her husband, it's legally mine too. Everything's going according to plan. Our future starts today." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. My hands were shaking so violently I almost dropped the phone. This couldn't be real. Not Marcus, not Keisha, not my sister. "Auntie Jazz?" Aaliyah's small voice broke through my shock. What is this?" I whispered, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. Aaliyah shook her head violently. "No, it's real. Mama and Uncle Marcus have been together for a long time. I've known for weeks." The room spun. What? "Last month, I heard Mama on the phone. She was laughing, saying Jazz doesn't suspect anything. And I've seen them together, meeting in secret. At first I thought I was imagining it, but then I kept seeing more and more, and I was so scared because Mama is my mama, but you're my aunt, and you've always been so good to me, and I didn't know what to do." "Baby, stop." I pulled her into a hug, even as my own world crumbled. "You did nothing wrong." But my mind was racing. The whispered conversations, Keisha's strange behavior, DeAndre not coming to family dinners anymore, the insistence on weekly Sunday gatherings. It all made horrible, terrible sense. Aaliyah pulled back and gripped my hands. "Auntie Jazz, you have to come with me, right now." "Where?" "Uncle Marcus's suite." Her voice dropped to an urgent whisper. "There's something you need to see with your own eyes. Please, we don't have much time before the ceremony starts." Every instinct screamed at me to stay in this room, to pretend I'd never seen those messages, to walk down that aisle and marry Marcus and live in blissful ignorance. But I'd built a multi-million-dollar company by facing hard truths head on. "Show me," I said. "Want to know what Jasmine saw through that window? The truth will shock you. Keep reading." We ran through the hallways of the estate, my wedding dress trailing behind me like a ghost. Staff members called out, "Miss Monroe, the ceremony!" But I ignored them. Aaliyah's small hand was gripped tight in mine, pulling me forward with desperate urgency. At the end of the corridor, she stopped outside a closed door. A brass plaque read, "Groom's Suite." "Here," Aaliyah whispered, "but don't go in. There's a window around the corner. I saw them earlier when I was looking for the bathroom." "What did you see, baby?" Aaliyah's lips trembled. "You have to see for yourself, Auntie. I can't explain it." I approached the window with the feeling of walking to my own execution. Through the partially open window, I could see into the suite. What I saw made my knees buckle. Marcus and Keisha were in the center of the room, wrapped around each other like vines. They were kissing, not a quick peck, not a friendly hug between future in-laws, a deep, passionate, hungry kiss. His hands were in her hair, her arms were around his neck. They were kissing like people who had done this 1,000 times before. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. But worse than the kiss was everything around them. Patricia, Marcus's mother, sat on the sofa with Gerald, both of them watching with indulgent smiles like proud parents at a school play. Terrence leaned against the wall grinning, raising a coffee cup in a mock toast. No one looked shocked. No one tried to stop it. They were all complicit. The window was cracked open just enough for voices to drift out. "From now on, you two can meet every Sunday," Patricia said, her voice warm with affection. "Family dinner with the whole crew. Jazz will never suspect a thing." Gerald chuckled. "Our son played this perfectly. Smart boy." "Big brother always was the strategic one. Though I gotta say, this is next level. I'm impressed." Marcus broke the kiss and took Keisha's face in his hands. "2 more years, baby. We just need to keep up appearances for 2 years. Then we file for divorce, I take half her company in the settlement, and we can finally be together openly." Keisha laughed, that familiar laugh I'd heard my whole life, but now it sounded like poison. "Jazz is so trusting. It's almost too easy. She thinks I'm her devoted little sister. Meanwhile, I'm going to become her sister-in-law and her successor when we take her down." On the coffee table, I spotted a wall calendar spread out, marked up with red ink. Dates circled: Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, 4th of July. In the margin, someone had written, "Family gatherings cover for affairs." Once we're married and she trusts me with business decisions, I'll tank a few key accounts, make it look like her fault, destroy her reputation in the industry. By the time we divorce, she'll be too broken to fight the settlement. We'll take everything: the company, her inheritance from her father, the properties, the investments, everything. My father's company. The business he'd built from nothing, that he'd trusted me to protect and grow. They were going to destroy it. Destroy me. Patricia stood and hugged them both. "You two are so smart. Jazz will be family, which means we'll have access to everything. Company secrets, financial records, legal documents. She'll welcome us right in." Poor lonely Jasmine, lost both her parents, so desperate for family that she'll believe anything. Did you see how grateful she was when your mother said we should do Sunday dinners? She almost cried. They were laughing, all of them, laughing at me. Gerald checked his watch. "Ceremony starts in 10 minutes. Son, you better get ready to play the loving groom." Marcus straightened his bow tie in the mirror. "Don't worry, I've got this. I'll give her the perfect wedding day. She'll be so grateful, so in love, she won't question anything for months. By the time she figures it out, if she ever does, it'll be too late." "What about the kid?" Terrence asked, nodding toward where Aaliyah must have been standing earlier. Keisha waved a hand dismissively. "Aaliyah's been acting weird lately. I think she might be suspect something. But who's gonna believe a 10-year-old? Besides, DeAndre and I will be divorced within the year. He's already suspicious, but he can't prove anything. And I'll get custody of Aaliyah. No court will take a child from her mother. Then I'll be Aaliyah's stepdad. One big happy family. Jazz will love that. My vision blurred with tears, but I forced myself to keep watching, to hear every word. I took out my phone with shaking hands and started recording video through the window. I captured 2 full minutes. The kiss, the conversation, the calendar, their faces as they laughed about destroying me. When I finally stepped away from the window, I had to lean against the wall to stay upright. The ivory silk of my wedding dress felt like a burial shroud. Aaliyah was crying silently. "I'm sorry, Auntie Jazz. I'm so sorry." I kneeled down and pulled my niece into a fierce hug. "You don't ever apologize. You saved me. Do you understand? You saved my life." "What are you going to do?" I wiped my tears and stood up. Something cold and hard had settled in my chest where my heart used to be. No more crying, no more being the fool. I'm going to fight. I took Aaliyah to where my bridesmaids were waiting. "Tamara, I need you to keep Aaliyah with you no matter what happens. Don't let Keisha take her. Can you do that?" Tamara saw my face and nodded immediately. "What's going on?" "You'll find out soon. Just protect her." I pulled out my phone and started making calls. First, to the venue manager. "The wedding is canceled, but I need the reception hall. Tell the guests there's been a change of plans, but there will be an important announcement. Keep everyone there." Next, to DeAndre. When he answered, his voice was tired. "Jasmine?" "DeAndre, I need you to come to the venue right now. Your wife has been having an affair with my fiance. They're planning to destroy my life and take everything from me, and they're going to divorce you to do it." Silence. Then, I knew something was wrong. She's been different, distant. I just couldn't prove it. "I'm on my way. And Jasmine, thank you for protecting Aaliyah. She's been scared lately, and I couldn't figure out why." Finally, I called my head of security at the company. "Bernard, I need you to prepare for immediate legal action, full documentation. I'm sending you evidence now. Prepare restraining orders, fraud investigations, the works." I sent him the screenshots and video. Then I stood in front of the mirror one last time. My makeup was ruined, my eyes red, but there was steel in my gaze that hadn't been there before. I walked back to Marcus's suite and threw open the door without knocking. Everyone inside froze. Marcus and Keisha jumped apart like they'd been electrified. "Jasmine!" Marcus started, his face going pale. "This isn't—" I held up my hand. "Don't say anything." My voice was ice. "That was quite the performance you were all giving." Patricia stood up, trying for innocence. "Sweetheart, what are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. Their text messages on display. "What's this?" Marcus's face went from pale to gray. "Those are private. If we can hold out for 2 years, we can get rid of her," I read aloud. "Is that private enough for you?" Keisha stepped forward, tears instantly forming, the same trick she'd used since we were kids. "Jazz, please let me explain." "Explain what, Keisha? How you've been sleeping with my fiance? How you're planning to steal Daddy's company? How you laughed about me being desperate for family? Which part needs explaining, Keisha?" Gerald stood up, trying to take control. "Young lady, you're being hysterical." I played the video. On my phone screen, clear as day. Marcus and Keisha kissing. Patricia's voice, "You two are so smart." Marcus's voice, "We'll take everything, the company, her inheritance, the properties. You and I see each other Sunday dinners." The room went silent except for the damning audio playing from my phone. The wedding is canceled, but I want every single guest going to the reception hall because I want every single guest to know exactly who you people really are. "You can't do this," Marcus said, his voice hardening, the mask finally falling away. "You'll look like a fool." I smiled coldly. "No, Marcus, you're the fool. You just tried to scam the woman who built a multi-million-dollar cybersecurity company. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" I turned and walked out, leaving them scrambling behind me. I could hear Patricia hissing, "Do something!" and Marcus saying, "It's fine, we can spin this." They had no idea what was coming. The showdown you've been waiting for is next. Don't miss how Jasmine exposes them all.
30 minutes later, the reception hall was packed with confused guests. Over 200 people filled the elegant space. Colleagues from my company, friends from college, distant relatives who'd flown in from across the country, Marcus's coworkers, our neighbors. The room buzzed with whispered speculation. Why is the wedding canceled? Did something happen? Is someone sick? Marcus's family and Keisha had been escorted to the front row by security staff I'd positioned strategically. They sat stiffly, their faces masks of barely contained panic. Keisha kept trying to leave, but every time she moved, a security guard would step forward. She was trapped, and she knew it. I stood backstage, still in my wedding dress, taking deep breaths. Tamara squeezed my hand. "You sure about this, Jazz? Once you do this, there's no going back." "There's already no going back," I said. "They made sure of that when they decided to destroy me." I walked onto the stage. The room fell silent instantly. 200 pairs of eyes fixed on me, the jilted bride in her ivory gown. I gripped the microphone. "Thank you all for coming today. I know you're confused. You came here expecting a wedding, and instead..." I took a breath. "Instead, you're going to get the truth." The silence was deafening. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I was going to marry a man I loved, surrounded by family I trusted. But this morning, my 10-year-old niece showed me something that changed everything. On the massive screens positioned around the hall, screens that were supposed to show our wedding photos, the text messages appeared. Gasps rippled through the crowd as people read Marcus and Keisha's words. "My fiance, Marcus Williams, has been having an affair with my sister, Keisha." My voice didn't shake. I wouldn't give them that. This entire wedding was a setup, a con, a way for them to meet openly while stealing everything my father built. The video played next. 200 people watched Marcus and Keisha kiss. Heard Patricia say, "You two are so smart." Heard Marcus discuss taking my company in a divorce settlement. Heard Keisha laugh about me being desperate for family. The silence broke into chaos. People were shouting. Marcus's colleagues from the financial firm were staring at him in horror. The reputational damage alone would end his career. My company's board members looked furious. They'd welcome Marcus into our world, and he'd planned to destroy us from the inside. "That's fake!" Marcus jumped to his feet, pointing to the screen. "She doctored that video. This is revenge because I tried to call off the wedding." "Really?" I said calmly. "Then explain the text messages. Explain why you're kissing my sister." "That was one mistake. We were drunk and..." "At 10 a.m. on my wedding day? Try again." Keisha stood up, tears streaming down her face. Real tears this time, but not from remorse, from being caught. "Jazz, please, you don't understand. We fell in love. We couldn't help it. You can't control who you love." The crowd erupted in boos. Someone shouted, "You're her sister!" "Love?" I laughed, and it was a terrible sound. "You call planning to financially destroy me love? You call plotting to steal my father's legacy love? You targeted my company, my inheritance, my life. That's not love. That's sociopathy." Patricia stood up, trying to regain control. "This is all a misunderstanding. My son would..." "Your son is on camera admitting everything," I cut her off. "You all are. You sat there and laughed about destroying me. You planned secret meetings under the guise of family dinners. You calculated exactly how long to wait before divorcing me and taking everything." At that moment, the doors at the back of the hall opened. DeAndre walked in, holding Aaliyah's hand. My niece looked terrified but determined. They walked straight to the stage. "Can I say something?" DeAndre asked quietly. I handed him the microphone. "I'm DeAndre Johnson, Keisha's husband." He looked out at the crowd. "For the past 6 months, I've watched my wife become a stranger.
She'd lie about where she was going. She'd smile at her phone and hide the screen when I walked in. She became distant with our daughter. I suspected an affair, but I never imagined. He looked at Marcus with pure contempt. I never imagined she'd target her own sister. Daddy! Keisha reached for him, but he stepped back. Don't. We're done, Keisha. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. And I'm getting full custody of Aaliyah. You can't take my daughter. I can, and I will. You used our child as a pawn in your scheme. You made her lie. You made her watch you betray her aunt. You destroyed her sense of security. He put his hand on Aaliyah's shoulder. And despite all that, she had the courage to do the right thing. I called Aaliyah up to the stage. She came slowly, but scared, but brave. I took her hand and spoke into the microphone. This is Aaliyah. She's 10 years old. This morning, she brought me evidence of the betrayal because she couldn't stand to watch her mother and my fiance destroy me. She risked her relationship with her own mom to save me. I looked down at my niece. Aaliyah, you showed me that family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty, courage, and love. You are more family to me than anyone who shares my DNA. The crowd erupted in applause. People were standing, clapping, some wiping tears. Aaliyah hugged me tight, and I held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Keisha tried one more time. Aaliyah, baby, please. Mommy made a mistake. Come here. Aaliyah looked at her mother and shook her head. You hurt Auntie Jez. You lied to Daddy. You made me keep secrets that made me scared every day. Her voice was small but firm. I can't trust you anymore, Mama. The devastation on Keisha's face would have moved me once. Not anymore. I took the microphone again. To everyone here, thank you for witnessing the truth. Marcus Williams, Keisha Johnson, and the entire Williams family conspired to commit fraud, emotional manipulation, and financial theft. My legal team is already filing charges. Restraining orders will be served by the end of today. Gerald stood up, red-faced. You have no proof of anything illegal. Actually, I do. Every text message, every recorded conversation, every documented meeting. My company specializes in cybersecurity and digital forensics. Did you really think I wouldn't have the resources to build an airtight case? I smiled coldly. You tried to con the wrong woman. Security escorted Marcus's family out as they protested. Marcus tried to approach the stage, but DeAndre stepped in front of him. You're done, man. Don't come near this family again. Keisha was the last to leave, her designer dress dragging on the floor, her perfect makeup ruined by tears. She looked back at me one time. I'm still your sister, Jazz. No, I said clearly. You're not. A sister doesn't destroy you for money. A sister doesn't seduce your fiance. You're a stranger who happens to share my parents' DNA. That's all you'll ever be now. As they were let out, the crowd erupted again. But this time, it wasn't in shock. It was in support. People came to the stage to hug me, to tell me how brave I was, to assure me that justice would be served. My company's board chairman approached me. Jasmine, we're behind you 100%. Marcus will never work in Atlanta's financial sector again. We'll make sure of it. An attorney in the crowd handed me her card. Pro bono services for any legal action you need. What they did was criminal. But the most important moment came when DeAndre brought Aaliyah back to me. Jazz, I know this is a lot to ask, but Aaliyah's going to need stability. I'm going to need help. Would you consider being a permanent part of our lives? Not as an aunt, but as family. Real family. I knelt down and looked at Aaliyah. What do you think, baby girl? Want to be my family for real? Aaliyah threw her arms around my neck. Yes, you're the best auntie in the whole world. I looked up at DeAndre. I'd be honored. 1 year later, the transformation. 12 months changed everything. I'm sitting in my office, the same one my father built, looking out over the Atlanta skyline. The company didn't just survive, it thrived. After news broke about Marcus's attempted fraud, we received inquiries from dozens of new clients impressed by our security protocols and my integrity under pressure. Revenue increased by 40%. We expanded to 3 new cities. But the real change wasn't professional. Every weekend, Aaliyah stays at my penthouse. We have movie nights where we watch terrible rom-coms and eat too much popcorn. I help with homework, attend her dance recitals, and last month, I taught her how to code her first website. She calls me Auntie Jazz, but introduces me as basically my second mom. DeAndre and I built an unexpected friendship. Once a month, the 3 of us have dinner, sometimes fancy restaurants, sometimes pizza on my balcony. We've created something new, a chosen family bound not by marriage or blood, but by mutual respect and love. As for the others, karma had a field day. Marcus was fired from his firm within a week.
The video went viral in Atlanta's business community. No reputable company would touch him. Last I heard, he's working at a small accounting office in the suburbs. His dreams of wealth and power destroyed. The lawsuit I filed for attempted fraud and emotional distress was settled in my favor. He's paying restitution for the next decade. His family's scattered like roaches when the lights come on. Patricia and Gerald moved to Florida, unable to face their former friends. Terrence's fiance broke off their engagement after seeing him laugh about destroying me on camera. The family's reputation was demolished. Keisha lost everything. The divorce was brutal. DeAndre got full custody, the house, and most of their assets. She can see Aaliyah once a month, supervised, but Aaliyah usually refuses. My former sister works 3 part-time jobs just to afford a small apartment. She tried to reach out to me twice, blocked her number both times. Some betrayals don't deserve second chances. On a Sunday afternoon, Aaliyah and I are baking cookies in my kitchen. She's gotten flour everywhere, including somehow in her hair. Diongene is on the balcony grilling chicken, and smooth jazz plays from the speakers. Auntie Jazz, Aaliyah looks up at me with those serious eyes. Do you think Mama will ever change? I consider the question carefully. I don't know, baby, but that's not our responsibility. We can only control our own choices. Are you still sad about what happened? I pull her into a hug, leaving flower handprints on both of us. Sometimes, but mostly I'm grateful. Grateful? Because it showed me what real family looks like. It's not about blood or last names. It's about who shows up when things are hard, who tells you the truth even when it's scary, who loves you enough to protect you. I kiss the top of her head. You did that for me. You're my hero, you know that. Aaliyah beams. Really? Really? You saved my life. DeAndre comes in from the balcony. All right, ladies, who's ready to eat? As we sit around my dining table, this makeshift chosen family of 3, I look at the empty chairs and don't feel sad. Those chairs aren't empty. They're reserved for the people who actually deserve to be here. My phone buzzes. A notification from my company's social media. Atlanta Business Journal names Jasmine Monroe Entrepreneur of the Year for her integrity, innovation, and resilience in the face of adversity. Aaliyah squeals, Auntie Jazz, you won! I smile, but I'm looking at her and DeAndre, not the phone. No, baby. We won. All of us. That night, after DeAndre and Aaliyah leave, I stand on my balcony looking at the city lights. I think about the woman I was a year ago, so desperate for family that I couldn't see the wolves in sheep's clothing, so focused on building a perfect life that I nearly let people destroy my real one. But I also think about the woman I am now, stronger, wiser, surrounded by real love instead of fake smiles. My phone rings. It's a blocked number. Against my better judgment, I answer. Jasmine? Keisha's voice, small and broken. Please, can we just talk? I'm your sister. We're family. I look out at Atlanta, at the empire I built, at the life I protected. No, Keisha, we're not family. Family doesn't come from DNA. It comes from showing up, from sacrifice, from love. And you showed me exactly who you are. But I hope you find peace with what you did. but you won't find it with me. Goodbye, Keisha. I block the number and delete it. Then I text Aaliyah, love you, sweet girl. See you next weekend? Her response comes immediately. Love you too, Auntie Jazz. Can we make tacos? I smile, and this time it reaches all the way to my heart. Absolutely. Later, as I'm getting ready for bed, I pass by my father's picture in the hallway. I stop and really look at it. His warm smile, his proud eyes. I protected what you built, Daddy, and I found a real family. I think you'd be proud. In the photograph, he seems to smile a little wider. The wedding that never was became the best thing that never happened to me. Because if I'd walked down that aisle, I would have lost everything. My company, my dignity, my sense of self. Instead, I gained something far more valuable. Clarity. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who'll hurt you deepest, that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, that a 10-year-old child can have more integrity than grown adults, that real family chooses you, and you choose them back every single day. I crawl into bed, alone, but not lonely. My last thought before sleep is not about Marcus or Keisha or what I lost. It's about Aaliyah's laugh, DeAndre's terrible jokes, and Sunday dinners that aren't cover-ups for affairs, but genuine celebrations of the family we chose. I lost a fiance and a sister, but I gained something infinitely better. Peace, self-respect, and a real family. And that, I think, as I drift off to sleep, is the happiest ending of all. Did this story move you? Have you ever had to cut toxic family members out of your life? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling with similar betrayal. Remember, you deserve people who celebrate you, not people who plot against you. Choose your family wisely. Want more stories about resilience, betrayal, and redemption? Follow us for daily posts that remind you of your strength. You're not alone in your journey. Thank you for watching. Take care.